Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Monday night/evening with 16 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. I hope you've had a wonderful start to your week. It's been quite a bit of a tiring, hot and, you know, long day for me, but it's a pleasure to be here. Still have plenty to do. Feels like it's one of those days where you feel like 24 hours in a day is just not enough for you. And yet somehow you must find a way to make it work. You must find a way to make it work. I hope you guys are doing well. We are back yet again for another conversation about football. As we speak, Argentina just managed to beat up against Austria by 2-0. Lionel Messi scoring a brace in that one. We'll be talking about him. Wow, you look good. Thank you so much, Viola. I hope you're doing okay. How are you doing? How has been your day? I hope you're enjoying yourself, regardless of the circumstances, and that you've come around to finding your replacement. Anyways, this evening we'll continue with the conversation on the World Cup. We'll get to talk about Manchester United because they've been making some news, and then we'll also talk about the upcoming fixture between France and Iraq. That's the next game. It's coming at exactly midnight. Summer Banks, it's been a while. You say I dare you to get a United jersey soon. They are not accepted. Summer Banks, I think I've given you my reservations around Manchester United and a possible Manchester United kit. I don't think that's a secret. In any case, it is a public secret. So first give us transfers. Okay, we'll get to talk about the transfers. Since that's the gist of where you want the conversation to start from. But fortunately or unfortunately, most of the transfer news that is making the rounds is largely gossip. And of course, there's some concrete news to a certain extent, but a lot of things have been speculative in the last couple of days. Secretary is saying, how are you doing, Mr. Tribe? I'm doing okay. CWC badge. Well, it came with the jersey, so I have no qualms whatsoever. But it's a nice jersey, by the way. I must admit. It's a nice kit. And there's a reason as to why it's not the one in blue, but rather this one. Raymond Kangumba does join us. Good to have you, Raymond. But you need to support Chelsea. You really look good. Yeah. No, I do not think there's anything in this world that can cause me to switch allegiance from the other side of London to another. As much as you'd love to see that, I do not think it's going to happen. But thanks for the invitation. But also, more importantly, like I've said previously, I, for one, in the world where I've grown up in loving this sport, I've only looked at Chelsea as a rival to the extent of the fixture in itself of Arsenal versus Chelsea. But beyond that, it's never been that deep for me, at least personally. Reluctant Gamer says, hey, Reluctant Gamer. Now, guys, very nice kit. Thank you. In case you guys are wondering why Reluctant Gamer's name is in the colors of green, it's because he's a member. He's a member on the channel. He's subscribed to membership. For only 2,000 Uganda shillings, you can be a member of the channel. And then, obviously, it comes with a certain level of privileges that I'll be letting you know about as we go forward. But anyways, for those of you that have just joined us, my name is Robert Kesakos. It's good to have you all. Kindly like the broadcast, but if it is your first time here, also please consider subscribing to the channel. Speaking of transfers, where should we start with the transfers? Because in the last couple of hours, the major transfer news has been pertaining Arsenal and their proposed move for Morgan Rogers. And the reason as to why I start with on that note is not because it's Arsenal news, but it is because also Chelsea appreciate the player in Morgan Rogers. Manchester United have equally been linked with a potential move for the same player, and it's to say the least, is that Unfortunately, for the other two clubs in Chelsea and Manchester United, is that the player is prioritizing a move to Arsenal. And it is expected that in the coming weeks, Arsenal will formalize talks between them and Aston Villa to see if a deal can be struck at what they believe to be a fair price. I do not know what they believe to be a fair price, but knowing that he's only 23 years of age, he's English, that is going to come at a huge cost. I don't think we're looking at any fee less than £75 million in as far as Morgan Rogers is concerned. He's been one of the most consistent players in as far as the Premier League is concerned in the last two campaigns. For example, with Aston Villa, last season, he did score 10 goals and provided 6 assists. The season prior to that, he had scored 8 goals and provided 10 assists. So you can see an 18-goal involvement, a 16-goal involvement. Of course, he joined them around January 2024, should be. And then he made only 11 appearances and scored 3 goals. He joined them, I think, from Middlesbrough. So with that said, or with that in mind, given how the current market trends when it comes to pricing players, you can see that there is an exaggeration on price, and a lot of what happens elsewhere feeds into other deals because they set precedent. They sort of set the tone for the market. So when you talk about this, like the proposed move for Elliot Anderson to Manchester City, and we're talking about astronomical figures in the excess of £120 million, definitely Aston Villa are going to look over their shoulders and think to themselves and say, look here, guys, Elliot Anderson has just fetched £120 million. I mean, look at our boy, he's 23, English, blah, blah, blah. He's been putting in these numbers ever since the start of the season. So he's worth, let's say, £100 million. And then it will be up to Arsenal to come to the conclusion that he is, in their eyes, worth that or less than that, and until a deal can be struck. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, let me first go through some of your comments. Club World Cup badge. Yes. Okay. Then Raymond said, hi. You say Key Smith and Abed Ezauzuri and Nusa, plus Fernandez Pedro and Sadio Emala should all sign for Newcastle. Well, for as long as Newcastle keeps sleeping on the job, they'll keep losing their primary targets. Remember, they were in for Victor Munoz days into negotiations. They were close to getting a deal done. Liverpool swooped in last minute and they took the man. So, and we saw that whole trend about Newcastle last summer when it came with Joao Pedro, when it came to players like Hugo Ekitike, Benjamin Sesko, when it came to players like, what's his name? Brani Belmo. So that sort of trend. So it is continuing the same direction for Newcastle. Are you there? I think that was for Viola, but you need to support Chelsea. Okay, not gonna happen at the moment. Okay, then Summer Banks. What's with the tears? What's with the teary eyes? We'll continue to have that conversation. Do not worry. Maybe you can persuade me to, to look at things otherwise. But we'll see. Raymond, please do not repeat your comments. Once you submit a comment, be sure that I'll have seen it. Become a member for only 90p or up to £1.5 per month. Thank you so much, Reluctant Gamer. Hey, Raymond, your news is rubbish. The Liverpool team hijacked the signing from us. You said we were gonna do the medical the next day. Yeah, I remember we were having, by the way, it's funny how transfers work. It was like today, and Raymond was, telling us about, Victor Munoz possibly having a medical with Newcastle being done in the United States of America. Obviously, at the time of him saying that, there had not been any medical scheduled to the effect of his transfer to join Newcastle. And then the subsequent day, that's when news came through that Liverpool had swooped in, agreed to pay the €40 million release clause. Following day, deal was done, and the rest is history. And like I said, without any change of particulars in the words, I did say that feels like a move that was solely engineered by Andoni Iraola to that effect. Okay. Zeni Pesna, is it Zeni Pesna saying hi? Hit the like button, thank you. 16 people are all Chelsea fans. Not often, not often. Reluctant Gamer is a Newcastle fan. Raymond Kangumba is a Newcastle fan. Summer Banks is a Manchester United fan, so we cannot rob that of her. I don't know about the others, I really. Hope Ivory Coast, hopefully Ivory Coast, okay, I'm not sure what you meant. Hopefully Ivory Coast will qualify when they defeat Curacao. Well, if the game against Ecuador is anything to go by, I suspect that Curacao will not go down without a fight. They came out, they really had a good game, by the way. And it was their goalkeeper that made all the difference. And that game is going to come at a time when I've seen Ivory Coast squander chances against Germany, because Germany were there for the taking. They just needed to be serious. I look at some of the opportunities that fell to their side, particularly to a player like Simon Adingra, and then subsequently, or prior to that, another opportunity that fell to Frank Kessie, and they could all not convert. So there's that. Okay. Summerbank says, I'm so broken that you can't wear a Man United jersey. Summerbanks, out of the utmost respect for each other's brands, you never know. Like I said, if I were to lose a bet to a Manchester United fan, those are the only circumstances that I would find myself putting on a United jersey. But I've also told the story before of how I wore a Manchester United kit. Unfortunately, it's not a story that I'm going to repeat on this forum. So for now, please excuse me on that front. Summerbank says, Amadou Diallo is more of a bench player. I finally accept. Well, I thought he did fair in that game. But yeah, I mean, depending on what team he's playing for, there are teams he would go to and he's an absolute starter. I also feel that with a little bit more coaching and to help him fine-tune his game, he can be a more consistent player. What he struggles with is not a lack of quality, but rather a lack of consistency, because he will come and give you a man of the match performance today, and the next game, and the next game, and then disappear for the next 5. Those kinds of things usually is what throw you off. And when you're going to play for a team as big as Manchester United, and by extension, the 3-time champions of Africa in Ivory Coast, you ought to be at the top of your game every so often, or more often than not. Okay. Viola responding to some banks says, just buy for him. Okay. As he won't wear it. I shared the live to come and see you. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Viola. So, okay, returning back to transfers. So, the expectation is that in the coming weeks, Arsenal will begin negotiations with Aston Villa for a potential deal. But like I said, Chelsea are equally interested, as well as Manchester United, although according to multiple reports coming out of the England camp, is that the player would prefer to join the Arsenal project as priority, unless otherwise. You know, when it comes to transfers, anything can change. I often take myself back to 2023 in January when Arsenal were pursuing a deal for Mykhailo Mudryk and how he ended up at Chelsea. So I cannot water down the strength of Chelsea or their bargaining power or convincing power when it comes to selling themselves to any player. And although Arsenal are the reigning champions of the Premier League as of present day, it does not mean that Chelsea are less attractive in as far as things go. Will Mo Salah join Real Madrid or just rumors? That's been more speculative than it is a fact, because ordinarily, if that were to be the case, trust me, it will be all over the news. It will be all over the news to that effect. But I've seen the rumors. I've seen the rumors. Remember, Mohamed Salah is a free agent, and he's out. He's there for the football world to take. The question is, where is his destination going to be? Your guess at the moment is as good as mine. Selfishly, as a Premier League fan, and by extension football, at most, is that I would have loved to see Mohamed Salah stay in the Premier League. And when I say stay in the Premier League, the choice would be his in regards to a team that he joins. Obviously, I would not be expecting him to join any of the top 6, maybe other than Tottenham Hotspurs. But a team like Aston Villa, a team like Everton, okay, Everton is out of the question given the rivalry of the Merseyside. But essentially, I sort of still feel like he could join a Brighton. I don't know if Bournemouth it would be too low for him, but if he were to stay in the Premier League, those are some of the clubs that I would think he would join. And the reason why I say that is because I still think that at a mid-table team where the expectations are a bit lower now, given his, he's also driving towards the evening of his career, maybe he could have, somewhere to be. But if that were not to be the case, top clubs are going to be up for his signature, particularly from the Italian Serie A. Teams like Juventus, teams like Inter Milan, teams like AC Milan, Napoli. Those are teams that I should be thinking about signing him. Of course, he played for AC Roma, initially on loan from Chelsea, and eventually signed for them. They could be in contention for him. So we'll just have to wait and see how things go for Mohamed Salah to that effect. Prince Nkosi joins us from South Africa. He says, good evening, bro. I hope you're enjoying the World Cup. I'm doing my best to enjoy the World Cup, but trust me, it's been a crazy schedule. I do my best to keep up, but it's not always simple. But thank you so much. I hope you've been doing all right, Prince Nkosi. Summerbank says, then tell him to bet the France match. Is Odegaard going? Well, the speculation is there. Now, here's what would happen, or what could possibly happen. First of all, I believe without a reasonable doubt that if a good offer came to Arsenal for Martin Odegaard, they would not, and he is willing to sign for the club that is coming for him, they would not hesitate to part ways with him. Because it's sort of, the last two campaigns I felt like, when you flatline, in economics, that's when you've reached that point of satiety, where you've consumed a lot of the product and you've reached your point of satiety. So if he was climbing a hill, he's climbed his hill, reached that sort of flat level, what we in geography we call the plateau, or like the Greek call it platiau. So the last two seasons have felt like he's flatlined. He's lacked the spark. I still feel there's a good player in there. I would rather Arsenal switch their model into playing him as an 8 and then find a creative 10. That's how I would want to look at it. I do not know Mikel Arteta's overall plan for him, but there's been a couple of rumors leading or linking him with a potential move away from the Emirates Stadium, with a team like Inter Milan reportedly interested in his services. Whether they can firm up their offer, that remains to be seen. But I've also been recommending, on the other hand, that those Italian giants need to start signing players that are a bit younger, as opposed to only signing players that are literally in the evenings of their careers. Usually they have a tendency of signing players who are 30 plus. When you look at the likes of Hakani Chanalolu, of course he's 32 now. You have Francesca Asebi, 37 or almost 38. Jan Sommer is equally, so they've had that tendency. You look at Henrik Mkhitaryan, those kinds of things. I understand it's a blend of quality and experience at the same time, given that the Italian Serie A is a bit slower compared to majority of the other leagues. But they could use a player like Martin Odegaard, and I think he could do well there. So, and then with that said as well, Arsenal have been linked with a potential move for Nico Paz from Como. Now, Nico Paz signed for Como from Real Madrid. That's Castilla. And he was signed for about, I think, 2 million euros. Now, Real Madrid have a buyback clause of about 10 million euros. According to multiple reports, Jose Mourinho does not think he would use the services of Nico Paz if he were to return to Real Madrid. But also Real Madrid, on the business sense of it, are considering two options. To have a renegotiation with Como, because the player wants to stay at Como. He's had a very good relationship with Francesco Sola Fabregas, who is their current manager. So because of that, he wants to stay at Como. But then Real Madrid are saying, so that's why Real Madrid are saying we can renegotiate this deal. In other words, I do not know what the terms of the renegotiated deal would look like, maybe it will be that they renegotiate, that they improve on their offer in terms of, let's say, it could be that Real Madrid agreed to pay, let's say, 15 million euros or 20 million euros in a year or 2 years' time, because they look at the player. He's a player of great potential, very, very good player. His numbers speak for themselves. He was among the top scorers from the previous campaign, and therefore they're thinking we cannot just let him go. But on the flip side of things is that they're thinking to themselves, we can't buy him back and sell him for a profit, because for the 2 seasons he's been with Como, in the debut campaign he scored about 6 goals and provided 8 assists. That's a good 14 goal involvement. This season he scored 12 goals in a league where Lautaro Martinez, I think, finished as top scorer with about 17 goals. So you can see how well he's done for himself. Plus 6 assists. That's an 18 goal involvement. So it's been progress after progress for the 21-year-old, who turns, by the way, 22 only in September. So they're thinking to themselves, we buy him back for 10 million euros and then put him up for sale for about anywhere between 40 to 50 million euros. We then get to make a significant profit in the region of maybe 30 or over 30 million euros. So there's that sort of thing. Or they can buy him back for that 10 million euros and then loan him back to Como. So how would that deal work? You buy him back for, let's say, 10 million euros. You loan him back to Como, maybe for 1 or 2 million euros for the subsequent season. Remember, Como are going to be playing Champions League football, so that means they're going to have the resources. And then at the end of the season, you can then sell him permanently. If Como want to buy him permanently, for given that they're the side that have developed him, they can have first refusal of, let's say, 40 million euros. But then, if it is any other club other than Como, Real Madrid could be asking for maybe 50, 60 million euros, depending. So those are the circumstances surrounding Nico Paz, who has been linked with the potential move to Arsenal. Now, then the other thing, I do not know what the particulars of that contract to the effect of a sell-on clause when it comes to Real Madrid, because usually they do 2 things. They have a buyback clause and a sell-on clause, or at least one of the 2. In the case of Victor Munoz, they also had first refusal. So they agreed they were not signing him back, but they had a 50% sell-on clause. So for the 40 million euros that Liverpool are paying Osasuna for Victor Munoz, Real Madrid are going to get 20 million euros of that. So in reference to Nico Paz, it could also work the same way, that let's say if Arsenal or any other team like Chelsea, because even Chelsea recently have had their interest in Nico Paz, were to sign him, let's say for 40 million euros, it could be that Real Madrid end up with half or 40% of that fee. So all that is also out there for consideration. So that's all pertaining or relating to Martin Odegaard and what his future looks like at Arsenal. So the speculation is not going to go away of a potential deal linking the Norwegian away with a move from the Gunners or from the Emirates Stadium. Then, okay, to the effect of now, most of the transfers that are happening not and not of great significance. I told you about Lucas Barkville. He's requested Tottenham that he be allowed to leave and seek more regular playing time elsewhere. So it's the player's preference. He's only 20. That's Lucas Barkville. Tottenham have been linked with the potential move for 2 central midfielders, Insandro Tonali and Matthias Fernandes from West Ham. So there's that deal also. Then apparently Manchester City have agreed with Chelsea to pay a compensation fee well in the excess of £10 million for them to appoint Enzo Maresca. Now, for those of you that were part of us last night, was it last night or this morning? I did discuss the situation regarding Enzo Maresca. Then the future captain, okay, let me speak to that in a bit after the Enzo Maresca situation. So basically, because Chelsea did not necessarily fire Enzo Maresca chose to walk away. That's why Chelsea want a compensation fee and were willing to take matters to court had Manchester City proceeded to appoint Enzo Maresca without his situation with the Blues being resolved. So basically, from my understanding, and this is the layman's understanding of the situation regarding Enzo Maresca and Chelsea, somewhere in his contract, it must have been indicated that if you step down from the job with us, because when you get fired, it is the company that is supposed to give you a severance package. In other words, contract compensation. But if you step down, in other words, if you resign, as Enzo Maresca did, he walked away, then if you get a job within this period of time, then whatever club is taking you must compensate us. I do not know the exactness of terms, but that's what the situation tells us. I'll give you an example. When it comes to clubs compensating for managers, it's not the first thing. You remember Chelsea fans, when you're getting Graham Potter from Brighton and Hove Albion, you had to pay a fee. Usually it's an exit clause. Should the manager want to go to another club, Man United paid the same thing for Ruben Amorim, getting him out of Sporting CP, something like that. Now, what's different in this particular situation is that Enzo Maresca had already walked away of Chelsea. But just because he had walked away does not negate him from his contractual responsibilities or from the clauses that bind him to that contract. So I'll give you an example. Graham Potter, even after being sacked at Chelsea, remained on Chelsea's payroll until such a time when he got a job. And I remember he was linked with multiple jobs, but I think he turned them down, or it just did not work out, or never felt like a perfect fit until he got the job with the Swedish national team, where he currently is. Never mind that they got walloped the other day by 5-1 against the Dutch or Netherlands. So basically, in terms of compensating contracts, clubs under their terms and conditions continue to pay these managers after they've sacked them until such a time when they get in the next job. You get the point. So usually that is what reduces the overall compensation package. So I'll give you another example. Because Ruben Amorim has got a job with AC Milan, instead of Manchester United paying him a total package of up to £15 million for what was the remainder of his contract that was terminated, they're going to be paying almost or slightly half of that. Almost half or slightly beyond half of that. Anywhere between £8 to £9 million. Why? Because he's now gotten a job. So that's how some of these contracts are structured. So look at Enzo Maresca's case in such a scenario, or in that sort of context. So according to multiple reports that are coming through, is that Manchester City have agreed to pay Chelsea in the excess of £10 million for them to be in position to appoint Enzo Maresca as their head coach, or manager. So that should be in the workings. So this came through from Ben Jacobs of TalkSport and Gimme Sport, saying Enzo Maresca set to sign his Manchester City contract this week. Compensation now agreed and is significantly in excess of £10 million. So Maresca is going to Chelsea. No. Oh, so Maresca basigadde bamusasula aba Chelsea. No. That's not the case. They were not paying him because he stepped down. Now, okay, let me try and find much simpler terms to put it in. Hi, LFC. LFC is a Liverpool fan. Says, yo, Robert, I'm back. Good to have you back, as always. So let me put it in these terms. But let me give you an example. Let's say you're being employed by Football Tribe as an organization, assuming. And then in your contract, let's say we'll be paying you, let's say, $200 per month, which is the equivalent of about almost 800,000 Uganda shillings. Then, and as part of that contract, we say, if we fire you, let's say it's a 2-year contract, but after 1 year, we choose to fire you. That means we are obligated to pay you, depending on the terms and conditions of your contract, we could be obligated to pay you for the remainder of your contract which is 1 year. So we would then sit on the table and say, on a monthly basis, you've been earning $2,200 times 12 months, which is how much? $1,200. That would be, is it 1,200? Possibly. Oh, forgive me for the math there. I think it will be $2,400. Yes. That would be owed to you. In other words, instead of us paying it to you as a lump sum, because we may not have the money, we'll choose to keep you on our payroll until such a time when your contract formally ends. However, the same contract could have a clause that says, if you get another job before the elapsation, before the end of the 12 months, for which you have been left with an active contract with us, is that instead of paying you for the entire 12 months, let's say we fire you and then in 4 months' time, you get a new job. The contract may include a clause that we will pay you for then 3 more months only, as opposed to paying you the rest of the contract. So that would be the situation if we fire you. However, if you step down, you yourself, you resign from the job, then we are not obligated to paying you. You get, because you have resigned from the job. Nonetheless, based on the industry we are in, we could say, if you get a job with a competitor or a company with whom we are in the same line of business, and in this particular case, let's say you get a job with our colleague, Nando Global Sports, and you're being given a job there before the end of those 12 months, then would say, if that company is willing to take you on before the elapsation of 1 year, then that company has to pay us a compensation fee of about this much, maybe $500. So it is up to that company for us to sit together and we agree on a fee. A fee may not be highlighted, but it could be a clause that calls for compensation. And then if they agree to pay us, let's say $500, then we'll allow you to join that company. It's more like a non-compete clause that you are not allowed to work. I'll give you an example. In 2023, was it 2023? No. In 2021, I got a job with a company called Appleton Group LLC. It was owned by foreigners. They were Liberians. And as part of my contract, I was not allowed to go and work for a company that did similar work with that company for a period of 1 year after leaving that company. In other words, it's a non-compete clause. You get? So it's to protect the company's secrets and business, information and things like that. So those are some of the clauses that could be embedded in some of these contracts. But I hope I've highlighted the situation for you properly. Then when it comes to the future captain. Now, when it comes to the future captain of Arsenal, if Martin Odegaard were to leave, first and foremost, remember Arsenal has what they call a leadership group. And as part of that leadership group, there's obviously the captain, Martin Odegaard, his vice, in Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Magalhaes, Declan Rice is part of that, Mikel Merino is part of that, and Gabriel Jesus. So, ordinarily, Mikel Arteta has sort of been putting it to the case of a popular vote, who the players want to be their captain, and they've been choosing Martin Odegaard. So, in the event that he were to leave, I do not know whether he would still use the same model or he would go for a managerial appointment where he says, okay, from today henceforth, Declan Rice is going to be our captain. In terms of popular outlook, or one of the most frequently alluded to name for who, in terms of deserving for the Arsenal captaincy, for the optics, for the leadership, and everything you want to consider, Declan Rice is a name highly mentioned. However, Mikel Merino is a very capable leader. A lot of players speak about him as a player that they see as a future manager. So that's a player capable of leading a team. Of course, Gabriel Magalhaes is already part of that leadership group. It could be Bukayo Saka. So I cannot tell you with absolute certainty on who would take the armband, but chances will be high that it either goes to Declan Rice or a Bukayo Saka or Gabriel Magalhaes. At least those will be in the top three in no particular order. I would want to think so before it even goes down to Mikel Merino. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to read your name. You say, who do you think will continue in Group A World Cup? Do not read my name. You tried many times. Oh, thanks for the kind reminder that I tried many times. I mean, I wouldn't want to bite my tongue and bring this broadcast to a premature end just because I labored myself into reading this beautiful name that I cannot pronounce in a snapshot. But if you're kind enough, you can also indulge me and give me maybe what you think could be a shorter reference of a name. Now, but to answer your question, in terms of Group A, first of all, Mexico have already qualified to the knockout stages or to the round of 32. Then South Korea comes second with 3 points, having beaten up against Czech Republic on match day 1 by 2-1 before losing to Mexico in the subsequent game by 1-0. Really, South Africa and Czech Republic were sharing the spoils in a 1-1 draw. So basically, Mexico already qualified. The question is between Czech Republic, South Africa, and South Korea, who will join them as the second team that qualifies directly out of Group A. For starters, South Korea have the upper hand because they currently occupy third place and have 3 points. Tentatively or ordinarily, all they need is a point because that point would take them to 4 points. And that should be enough to take them through. However, that point has to be on conditionality that Czech Republic do not beat up against Mexico by more than 2 goals in their final game, because then that would put them in third place when it comes to, it will put them level on on points, but then when it comes to goal squad, Czech Republic have a -1, South Korea have 0 as in terms of goal difference. So let's say Czech Republic were to beat Mexico by 3-0, they would end up with a +2. Even if they end up with a +1, and then South Korea have made a draw against South Africa, it wouldn't help them. It would tentatively mean Czech Republic are second and they qualify. So their best bet is for them to beat South Africa and go through. So in terms of who I think will go through, I think South Korea will go through, because whereas I would want to wish well for South Africa, thanks to my colleagues like Son of Soweto and Presi Kosi, who join us from, haphazardly from South Africa, they've not had a good tournament. Yes, they have a point. They had to fight their way against Czech Republic. So I'd fancy South Korea to be the next team. Now, remember, after those teams are qualified, there are 12 groups, and I mentioned round of 32. So in each group, we are going to take 2 teams. 2 teams. Team 1 and Team 2. In other words, if you finish top and second, those qualify automatically. But after getting that cohort of 24 teams, then we will come back to all the 12 groups and look at the third best placed finishers. Third best finishers out of the 12. So remember, all the 12 groups will have third best teams or teams that have finished third. So out of those 12, we'll pick 8 of those and add them to the 24 to make the round of 32. So there's also a possibility of us having 3 teams qualify out of Group A. And that takes me back to the significancy of the result that Czech Republic need to get against Mexico. Mexico having already qualified, it's not unthinkable that South Korea could beat South Africa, let's say by 4-0. And then if Mexico were to lose their final game, they could sleep, or they just need to win by 3-0 actually, and hope that, let's say, Czech Republic beat up against Mexico by 3-0 or by 2-0, even if it were 1-0, by the way. For as long as Mexico loses to Czech Republic, it would mean that South Korea, with a win, they move to place number 1. I do not know whether Mexico would want to see that. But there's a possibility that we get 3 teams out of this group. But the only way that happens is, for example, if South Korea beats South Africa in their final game, and then Czech Republic also beat Mexico. Now, regardless of the scorelines there, what it would imply is that Czech Republic would finish with 4 points if they were able to register a victory against Mexico. So that is the possibility of things happening that way for us to get 3 teams out of Group A. You say, I think Czech is third, and Czech, myself, I do not think we are beating Mexico by 3-0. Now, okay, maybe to give you a glimmer of hope. Usually we say 1% chance, 99% hope. So basically, you do not need to win by 3-0. You just need to win by a goal to nil. Whether it's 2-1, you just need to win, whichever way you win. Scrappy win, ugly win, whichever way you define it. Czech Republic just need to win. And if they win, it takes them to 4 points. And then regardless of what happens between South Korea and South Africa, they would have given themselves a chance going, so they would possibly end with 4 points. Chances are really high that when you finish with 4 points, in the group stages, you are going to be taken as one of the third best placed finishers. So at least we still rule hockey with Canada. Okay, that's a consolation. But like I've said previously, Czech Republic is one of those countries that have a rich history in as far as the World Cup is concerned. When you go back to the days of it being called Czechoslovakia, they played in the finals of 1934 and 1962. In 1934, they lost to Italy, and in 1962, they lost to Brazil. Because at both occasions, those teams that they lost to, Italy were winning it for the first time at the time in 1934, whereas in Brazil in 1962, we are winning it back to back. I hope I've not mixed up the geography when it comes to Czech Republic and Czechoslovakia. Anyways, I'll leave that at that. So quickly, guys, the game between France and Iraq is kicking off in just a bit. Let's look at how the two teams have set up. Obviously, we are more interested in Team France than we are with Team Iraq. So in terms of the starting 11 for France, I do not expect many changes, but their goalkeeper, suspect, Mike Maignan, is in goal. Jules Koundé at right back, Diet Upamecano and William Saliba, as well as Lucas Digne at left back. Manu Kone in midfield, starting ahead of Tchouameni, alongside Adrien Rabiot, Michael Olise, Ousmane Dembele, Bradley Barcola, starting ahead of Desiree Doué and Kylian Mbappe. Quite interesting, that sort of setup. I'm particularly going to be interested in monitoring Bradley Barcola because he's one of those players that I would love to see sign for the Arsenal. Okay, then in terms of Iraq, they have Basil in goal. They have Ali at left back. They have Dosk at right back. They have Hashimi and Tashim as their center backs. They have Zaid Ismail in midfield. They have Al Amari in midfield. They have Bayashi. They have it's Zidane Iqbal. And then they have Quessam, Ahmed Quessam, and then they have Ayman Hussein as the target man. There, that's our team Iraq. That's how the two teams have set up. Obviously, as we draw closer to the end of match day 2 of this World Cup, because remember, by the time we get to Wednesday, we'll be starting to watch or to see the final games of the, will it even be Wednesday? Yes, Wednesday. That's when we'll start to see match day 3. And when match day 3 comes around the corner, we're going to have 2 games being played concurrently. So please take note of that in the coming weeks. Speaking of action today, we did start the day with Argentina beating up against Austria by 2-0, a brace from Lionel Messi in the 38th minute and in the 95th minute, but it goes without saying that he missed a penalty in that game. Now, first of all, I did not think it was a penalty when it was given. And okay, it looked a bit 50-50 because you had one player take out Lautaro Martinez, you had another defender take out the ball. So do you judge that one player has cleanly won the ball, or you judge that you punish the other player that has committed the foul on Lautaro Martinez? Based on the VAR review that culminated into a penalty being awarded against Austria, you can guess what the decision was or where it landed. Meanwhile, the game has kicked off between Iraq and France. Then, okay, so Lionel Messi scored in the 38th minute, brilliant goal, part of the build-up, and then he scored in the 50th minute of stoppage time to make it 2-0 for the 2022 champions, as well as the 1986 champions, who are three-time winners of the competition. Now, in the context of the game itself, Argentina felt dominant on the ball, but a lot of times I felt that the game was. I felt like the game lacked a lot of spark. The game lacked a lot of spark. I mean, Argentina ended up with only 3 shots on target, compared to only 1 for Austria. They had 12 shots on goal. That's for Argentina, 6 on goal for Austria. Possession was 54% compared to 46% of Austria. And then you can see that it was a game of small margins. And obviously, Lionel Messi, being a standout performer on the day as he scored his 17th and 18th goal of the World Cup. And therefore, he is the highest scorer now of the World Cup, having scored that press against Austria. So he's so far scored 5 goals already in this competition. He scored a hat-trick against Algeria and he scored a brace. So that's 5 goals to his name. Now, the mantle or the real estate has been handed over to Kylian Mbappe, who scored a brace against Senegal. What can he do in this particular game? Can he also score a hat-trick and level in terms of goals? Remember, at the last edition of the World Cup, that was in 2022, he was the top scorer with 8 goals. That's Kylian Mbappe. And, so it's over to him. Then additionally, so he's beaten Miroslav Klose's record. Remember, Miroslav Klose has been the World Cup's highest goal scorer with a tally of 16. So in scoring that hat-trick, Lionel Messi equaled it, and now he scored a brace today, and so he's beaten it by 2 goals. So, quite interesting when you think of it that way. Well deserved. He's Lionel Messi. That's why our heading says Messi is Messi. Okay, Irakia, come forward. Manu Kone, referee saying he's won the ball cleanly. By the way, Masai mentioned that I was disappointed in Ousmane Dembele's opening performance for the World Cup. That was against Senegal. I did not think he showed up for a Ballon d'Or holder. That's not the kind of performance that we had hoped for or we had expected from him. So, anyways, that's the bit of the World Cup. Then, Manchester United did today reveal that they have acquired majority of the land that they need to build their new stadium. So, unfortunately, from my understanding of things, that land is not in the exact spot where you currently have Old Trafford. It's a bit of a different location. The same way you had Arsenal shift from Highbury to the Emirates Stadium, that sort of thing. So basically, and I've seen some people share their reservations about it because of that street that they normally walk through as they go and leave Old Trafford. That sentimental bit of it, It's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. Hi, KI. Good to have you. So, guys, I want to try and shift position so that I can follow the events of the game properly without constantly having my head turned sideways to the screen. I don't know how I achieve this in the without much disruption at all. But we'll soldier on. Anyways, after all, it's still goalless after only 4 minutes played. Excuse me. Okay, so basically, those have been some of the major stories from the day, or in as far as today is concerned. But in terms of the Manchester United stadium project is concerned, that's some really, really huge news, because remember, they are looking to construct a 100,000-seater stadium. So they released a statement saying that they have secured the majority of the land required to build a new 100,000-seater stadium. Now, guys, remember this. What makes these stadium projects really, really expensive for these clubs is, first and foremost, these clubs are already located in cities that are home to them, and therefore they're not going to leave. So remember what they do not want to leave those cities, and cities oftentimes do not have a great deal of vacant land. So in not having vacant land, it means that you have to find a location where you agree to pay people and move them. In other words, I'll give you an example. If just imagine you want to build a mega stadium in New York City. It already feels congested as it is. In other words, it feels insufficient to its dwellers. So for you to achieve that, you're going to pay people to break certain buildings. And you'll have to say, dear what's the World Trade Center? Yeah, we want that space. And we are going to shift you to this place. Because first of all, it's not a case of you paying people. No. You have to show where they're going. And that sort of thing. So in the end, it makes these stadium construction projects really, really expensive. But high KI, so you must think of it that way or in those terms. Let's see if we can try and shift a little bit, so that we can enjoy this game. Miscued by, is it Lucas Digne? No, Kylian Mbappe is the one that miscued that one. So anyways, that's the update when it comes to Manchester United. So that project is estimated that will cost them up to £2 billion. Now, that's a significant amount of money. That's a significant amount of money, really, from the look of things. And it will indeed cost them. But fortunately for a club like Manchester United, given the size of the club that they are, I do not think that they'll find trouble finding finding investors to help them injecting the cash that they need to make that happen. I don't think that will be the case for them. So, and I mean, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, having been around the block for quite some time, will definitely know the right people to reach out to when it comes to that. You can sponsor these stadium constructions through company partnerships, who get naming rights the way Arsenal did with the Emirates. It could be through bank loans. It could be through investors that come and say, okay, we're going to invest our £2 billion in the construction of this stadium. Recovery of this money will be under this model for this period of time. before it becomes entirely the property of the club. So you must, usually it works that way. Usually it works that way. Anyways, let's see. Manu Kone in midfield, playing alongside Adrian Rabiot, provided very beautiful assist for Bradley Barcola's goal in that victory, 3-1 victory for France against Senegal in the last time out. Meanwhile, I wish to say thank you so much to all our new subscribers who have recently joined the community. Can see we are at 4,440. So thank you so much, every one of you that is recently subscribed to the channel. Keep it up. And for those of you that keep finding the time to watch our broadcasts, and those that watch them after they've ended, would not take your love and support for granted. Then for those of you that have managed to find the time to watch our interview that we did with Waiki Benda, the boy Sotenda of the fan bench, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been really amazing. Keep doing the same. Keep sharing that video so that more and more people get to watch it. And when you watch it, forget not to leave a like. Forget not to leave a comment, because it's those actions, those small actions that you take, that helps our content be recommended to other individuals. Okay. Anyways. Okay, that's about it. That's about it. France are yet to find the breakthrough. Like I said, I'm more interested in watching Bradley Barcola in this game. I have some selfish interests there. Jeremy Monga is now expected to sign for Arsenal Football Club. Story with scouting indoors. Let me see. Been a pleasure working together, champ. Okay. So remember, Arsenal have been pursuing a deal to sign 16-year-old England international Jeremy Monga from Leicester City, and it's how do I describe it? He does turn 17 next month. The Arsenal want him to be part of their pre-season tour, which will help determine whether they keep him for the rest of the season or they let him go out on loan, because that is a route that they are willing to consider in terms of signing him and then letting him go on loan. Their initial proposal was approximately £10 million, but that was rebuffed by Leicester City, and then the negotiations did continue. So, expect that movement on the Arsenal part. Jeremy Monga. I've watched clips of him. He's a raw talent. He's a raw talent. I must say, I did not get carried away. I did not read too much into it in terms of his potential, but it's there for the world to see. There's a prospect in there. Then we know that Arsenal are interested in Christos Zolis. They're interested in signing him and bringing him to the club. Then apparently Chelsea may not consider selling Nicholas Jackson. So remember, they have now Nicholas Jackson, they have Liam Delap, but they also want another striker. Wow, what a goal. Kylian Mbappe with his third goal of the World Cup, and the opener in this one. There's something about Kylian Mbappe and the World Cup. And it was Waiki Benda was telling me during that 1 hour interview that we had with him at the Fanpage studio, saying that Kylian Mbappe loves the World Cup. And I was saying, maybe he loves France and France love him. He just lights up in the World Cup. Ever since 2018, coming on to the 2022 edition, and he's what now? 26, 27? So this may not be his last World Cup, but this could be the last World Cup he plays when he's in his absolute prime. And the assist has been by Mike Olise. Goes onto his weaker foot and puts that ball beyond the reach of the Iraqi goalkeeper. It's 1-0 to France. It's 1-0 to France. Beautiful, beautiful goal. I hope you guys enjoyed that one as well. Proud moment indeed for your father. Oh, really? Thought that was a corner kick. My bad. Yeah, that's what I said. He needs to light up today and chase Lionel Messi for that golden boot. And so far, Messi is leading the way with 5 goals scored. Ousmane Dembele coming out wide. Michael Olise staying on the inside. Ah. Uh-oh. Careful. Iraq playing that ball in no man's land. Well recovered. Ah. Hey, Francis counter press is not that impressive. Ah, come on. That's a fairly decent pass. So then Manchester United are interested in signing Crescencio Somerville. So they really remain interested in the Dutch international, who, by the way, has caught the attention of the likes of Paris Saint-Germain as well. I told you about AC Milan and Aston Villa among the other teams that are interested in the Dutch winger who plays for West Ham. He's scored 2 goals already in the World Cup. He scored in their opening game against Japan, and he also scored yesterday or the other day against Sweden. So his stock price is really, increasing, and teams are continuously appreciating him. Speaking of Crescencio Somerville, or speaking about the Dutch, having completed the signing of John Paul Van Hecke from Brighton and Hove Albion, Tottenham Hotspurs are interested in signing Cody Gakpo from Liverpool. I've seen some unconfirmed reports to the effect of Tottenham even agreeing to a deal with Cody Gakpo in principle. But like I said, those are unconfirmed reports. I don't want to call them baseless rumors, but I do not think the deal is done that extent. But Roberto Di Zerbi really likes Cody Gakpo, and he would want to take him to Tottenham Hotspurs as a winger. So think of it that way. And we saw him play off the wing in that victory against Sweden. He played in the wing and provided an assist for Brian Brobby's, was it the first goal or the second goal? And then he scored a brace. So he had a wonderful performance. So Tottenham are interested in Cody Gakpo, as they are in Savinho from Manchester City. So, now Man United, we've spoken about Man United and why they need to sign a left winger. Because on the right, they have a Brian Mbeumo and Amadou Diallo. When you cross over to the right, they've been using Patrick Dogu. Sorry, when you cross over to the left, they've been using Patrick Dogu and Matthias Cunha. So they need somebody there. The first goal, beautiful goal. It was a beautiful goal, Summerbanks. So Man United, in their setup, they're using Cunha and Patrick Dogu on the left wing. So they are looking for somebody to play in that role, and Crescencio Somerville could be that player. Now, remember, they're already interested in Matheus Fernandes. And at one point, I think it was the Mirror that reported that it would cost them a fee of about 150 million pounds to sign both players from West Ham, which I believe is an exaggerated fee because I, for one, value Matas Fernandez anywhere between, I mean, between 55 to 65 million pounds as of present day, even though West Ham want at least 85 million pounds or in the excess of 80 million pounds. But let's exaggerate our own valuation of him and put him at 70 million pounds. Then that means that Crescencio Somerville cannot be worth 80. Crescencio Somerville should not be costing any team more than 50 million pounds. Even at 50 million pounds, that's an already exaggerated fee. So if you're Manchester United, you must be thinking 120 million pounds. Anywhere between 100 and 120 million pounds should be enough to get a deal done for both players. So there's that as well. Then Yasin Ayari over Brighton and Hove Albion, that's the 22-year-old Swedish midfielder, is of interest to Newcastle. So we'll have to wait and see how things go to that extent. Then Juventus are interested in signing Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez from Aston Villa. Remember, these two have a working relationship, having signed Douglas Luiz already from Aston Villa, who, by the way, they want to part ways with because it's not worked out. His debut campaign wasn't at its best. Second season, he was loaned out to Nottingham Forest and back to Aston Villa, so it's not worked out well for the Brazilian international for life in Italy. But we'll see how things go for him in that effect or in that respect. So, like I said about Chelsea, Nicholas Jackson will not push for a move away from Chelsea. Would want to test himself under the new manager in Xabi Alonso and see if he can get it. He can be in the good books. You never know. I don't know what Xabi Alonso is thinking of him. Speaking of Xabi Alonso, he has, I think, about 7 days left to bring his summer to an end because work officially begins for him on the 1st of July, 2026 at Chelsea. I know I've reported before that he's already working unofficially, you know. We are headed for the hydration break here, although it doesn't appear to be too hot. But the thing about these breaks is that, okay, I don't know if it's an unpopular suggestion, but my suggestion would be that if temperatures exceeded a certain range, then teams would qualify for a hydration break. But it's simply been made a universal rule that even when temperatures are cooler in some parts of the World Cup venues, the hydration break has to be had, regardless of what you and I may think. So, I don't know. Meanwhile, UEFA did announce that at the UEFA, at the Euros and other UEFA competitions, they're not considering to introduce hydration breaks, and nor should they. Let players hydrate the same way they've been doing during a sudden stop in the game, whether it's due to a player being injured during a substitution. Okay, maybe substitutions will be hard this time around because given that they've introduced this 10-second rule for players to be swapped in and out. But I do not know. Whichever way they let them do it the way they've been doing it, essentially. So if a player goes down and they're needing treatment, you can use that as time for treatment. So anyways, we'll have to wait and see. Okay. So that's some of the hot transfer gossip and speculation that is making the rounds. But still on transfer gossip and speculation. So apparently, Manchester United's Marcus Rashford is prepared to take a pay cut to join Tottenham Hotspur for £40 million this summer after Barcelona loan spell. That's according to iPaper. Meanwhile, Kylian Mbappe is receiving some last-minute instructions from Didier Deschamps, who, by the way, this is his final tournament with the French. Iraq have decided to make a substitution. Al Hamadi is being introduced. It's being introduced. So, anyways, I think they've lost Ayman Hussein to what appears to be, I don't know, a groin injury or a hamstring injury. It's been a forced substitution due to injury. So it's quite very, very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Okay, so I mean, when it comes to the issue with Marcus Rashford, this is what I've said. If he is still interested in playing football and really competitive football, majority of the clubs that are going to be willing to sign him are what you call mid-table teams. And I've mentioned that clubs like Chelsea, okay, Chelsea is not a mid-table team, although they finished 10th last campaign. But I've said Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham Hotspurs, even Aston Villa, these are all clubs that could use his services. But because he's on such significant wages, in the excess of £300,000 per week, he becomes unattractive to these clubs that would ordinarily want to sign him. So you must think of it in those terms, you know. You must think of it in those terms. So really, you know, let's see. But also Man United themselves. I mean, you could use him on the left wing. I don't know. I just feel like he could return to United and be a spark and rediscover that spark that he had in 2022-23 season. Okay, then Tottenham are also confident of signing Newcastle midfielder Sandro Tonali for close to £85 million, but the Italian international would rather join rivals Arsenal. That's according to Daily Mail. Then, Chelsea's 26-year-old defender Trevor Chalobah, who was a late call-up for the England World Cup squad, is wanted by Como boss Cesc Fabregas. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. Then Bayern Munich and Tottenham are both keen on 29-year-old Juventus defender Bremer, but the Brazilian is happy to stay in Turin. That's according to Gianluca Di Mazzario in Italy. Barcelona have made an approach to see if England striker Hurricane 32 would be open to leaving Bayern Munich for the Spanish side. That's according to Sport in Spanish. The Manchester United are prepared to accept a loss on 25-year-old Uruguayan midfielder Manuel Ugarte in order to sell him this summer. That's according to The Sun. I think Manuel Ugarte is also one of the other players that we've spoken about quite widely as not fitting for purpose at Manchester United. Then Leeds have also have moved closer to finalizing a deal for Southampton's Northern Ireland midfielder Shea Charles, 22, who only has a year left on his contract. That's according to Team Talk. While Brighton are closing in on signing 27-year-old Venezia and Austria defender Michael Voboda, or Shvobda, something like that. That's according to Sky Sports. And then Arsenal are yet to agree a deal to sign Kolketi and Georgia under-21 midfielder Andrea Batcheville with Liverpool and Paris FC also working on a move for the 17-year-old. That's according to TalkSport. Then West Ham defender Jean-Claire Todibo 26 is close to agreeing a loan move to Fenerbahce after the Hamas relegation. That's according to Star in Turkish. So those are some of the latest transfer gossip or speculations as compiled by BBC Sport. Meanwhile, we are at the half-hour mark of this game, and it's a corner kick for the Iraqis. It's a corner kick for the Iraqis. Let's see how this one spans out or turns out. Then, according to some breaking news, breaking Julian Alvarez, the best thing for me is a transfer, and I want to fulfill my dream. Always reported, Julian has agreed to join Barcelona, and what's the move? It depends now on clubs. After a 100 million bid rejected a few weeks ago, looks like the Argentine Julian Alvarez, 26 years of age, is interested in a move away from the Riyadh Air Stadium or the Wanda Metropolitano. So very quite interesting. Quite interesting. So looks like Atletico Madrid just need to name their price and see if they can get Barcelona to pay what they feel is worth their while for Julian Alvarez. Okay. This is according to Florian Plettenberg of Sky German, saying that Ismail Salabia can now be considered a new FC Bayern Munich player, all done and sealed following successful medical, as revealed last week. Max Eberl managed to negotiate the fixed fee down to below 50 million euros because he and his team moved very early. That is also why Eberl pushed to reach an agreement with PSV before Morocco's first World Cup match. So that's Ismail Sarabia joining Bayern Munich from PSV Eindhoven. Okay. Other than the goal, it's been a bit of a dull game. Other than the goal, it's been a bit of a quiet, dull game. And I don't know, for some reason, we've had quite a couple of those. in recent times. KI says the ads break killed the French momento, the hydration break. I mean, I understand that school of arguments, but let's be fair. That momentum didn't feel as high as you'd ordinarily dream of it. I mean, when you watch this French side with all the attacking prowess, when you look at those four players in Bradley Bacola, Michael Olise, Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, you expect this to be a highly paced game, a fast-paced game, but we've not witnessed that. We've not seen them relentlessly run at that Iraqi defense, you know. So for me, I sort of feel like even prior to the water break, other than the goal, the game in itself has not offered us much. You know, take comparison. Compare. I don't know if you had the opportunity, Ki, to watch the game between Netherlands and Sweden. I mean, that was an end-to-end game. Only that the Dutch were being very successful at scoring on the other end, and yet the Swedish were not being so successful. You know, so there's that. And it's not to say that Iraq are that weak a team, but I mean, you're France, you're two-time World Cup champions, your 2016 Euro are losing finalists, your 2022 World Cup losing finalists. Clearly, you ought to weigh more than whatever else Iraq has to present, you know? And these Iraqis, I feel that they're being overly passive in the name of trying to be patient. It's France. When you have the space, go for it. Here, the French come. Off. Bradley Bacola tried to squeeze it in between the defenders. Find Michael Olise. This game won't finish with less than 5 goals. I mean, it's not that I want to see too many goals, not really, but I want to see goalkeepers being constantly engaged. I want to see defenders being made to eat some grass, like kiss the floor, just because somebody's dribbled past them. You say 100% guaranteed. Here they come again, still falling short. The final third, that last pass is still eluding them. Is still eluding them. Somebody is screaming in pain, and the referee is saying he won't have it. Oh, Adrian Rabiot may have gotten a piece of the ball, but he definitely took somebody out. Manukone fouled. Oh, so it's raining out here, and we've just had a hydration break. And that's what I was saying. That the hydration break shouldn't be a given. No wonder people call it the ad break. It should depend on the level of temperatures. Oh, Kylian Mbappe's hesitation clearly cost him there, but good recovery from those Iraqi defenders. Good recovery from those Iraqi defenders. Oh, somebody nicked that ball out of his path. Otherwise, he was ready to pull the trigger. He was ready to pull the trigger. But yes. Having a hydration break on a rainy day is the equivalent of watering a plant when it is raining. In the sense and history of football. By the way, I've at least liked or loved how these Iraqis have been beating the French press to get from out of the back. But once they reach that midfield area, it's like they get devoid of ideas. They don't know what to do beyond that point. You know? So for me, that's where I have, you know, my reservations. They build up the ball from the back quite passively well, but then at that point when you expect more from them, that's when they fall short. Anukone claiming a foul here after committing one. Oh, It's a little one. But the beauty about this is that the weather forecast must have warned them. My reservation or challenge will be on. We saw at the FIFA Club World Cup, we saw games being overly delayed because of what threatened to be bad weather. You know, and for me, that's the beauty of having a stadium that closes up. Because by now they would have just closed up, like the Santiago Bernabeu, and cook in there, you know. Second half cancelled due to rain. Oh, is that so? I've yet to see that confirmation or to see that message. What would that then mean for the fans? More on that story regarding Julian Alvarez wanting to leave Atletico de Madrid. He says, I do not want to hide or act like I do not want to be clear. I tried to be honest. I spoke to Atletico people, and I think the best for everyone involved is for me to leave. I want to fulfill my dream. That was Julian Alvarez speaking to ESPN. And then earlier on, I did reveal to you that Arsenal have agreed a deal to sign Jeremy Monga. They've agreed a deal to sign Jeremy Monga from Leicester City. Then, according to Arsenal Radar, Arsenal remain interested in Midtjylland winger Dario Osorio. The Chilean international, dubbed the next Alexis Sanchez in his homeland, is attracting attention from several Premier League clubs after registering 8 goals and 10 assists last campaign for Midtjylland. I remember Midtjylland were playing in the UEFA Europa League, and they got knocked out by they got knocked out by Nottingham Forest. Yes, Nottingham Forest. You see, you retracted the comment there. Will be sent into halftime. Halftime score: France 1-0 Iraq. That goal from Kylian Mbappe is what separates the two sides at the moment. But the breaking news is regarding Julian Alvarez. He's told Atletico de Madrid flat out that he wants to leave the club, and Barcelona is his preferred destination. That's according to an interview with ESPN. So that's the big breaking news coming through regarding Julian Alvarez. Remember, Atletico de Madrid turned down an offer worth 100 million euros for the Argentine forward. Mate, why are you wearing a Chelsea kit? That is haram. Guna, I understand where you're coming from when it comes to that. And by the way, you see, I remember, let me remind you of this story because I did an episode on it. Last season, okay, not last season, because 2024-2025 campaign, when Manchester United reached the finals of the UEFA Europa League against Tottenham Hotspurs, I remember doing a video. I don't remember what the title was, but I remember I was trying to explain to Arsenal fans in the UK and those slightly beyond about what on this side of the aisle we look at as rivalry, or what we sort of who we consider to be Arsenal's competitors. And for as long as I've known and understood football, Manchester United has always been Arsenal's biggest rivalry. The rest has always been background noise, for lack of a better word. I'll give you an example. So in that video, I'll able to explain that you know how it would be unthinkable for an Arsenal fan from London to be supporting Tottenham Hotspurs in any game, regardless of the situation? Well, Arsenal fans from the side of the aisle were rooting for Tottenham to win the UEFA Europa League final. Why? Because to them, Manchester United is their biggest rivalry, and therefore they do not want to see him happy or celebrate anything. Whereas on the other side of the aisle, that's in the UK, Arsenal fans were saying we would rather United, like it was the choice of two devils, for lack of a better phrase. And they were saying would rather United win it than Tottenham Hotspurs. So you can see that we already had competing thoughts on that front. So in me wearing the Chelsea kit, that's the best example that I can use to describe the situation for you. That in terms of rivalry, the rivalry has come in the last sort of 20 odd years, the last 20 years. That's when it felt like a rivalry between Arsenal and Chelsea. Ordinarily, it was like any other fixture of two teams who originate from London. The other example I can give you is there's no historical rivalry between Manchester City and Liverpool, but because of the Jurgen Klopp Pep Guardiola era, there appeared to be a rivalry. It was just a big game, no more than that. Present day, you have had Arsenal Man City. Traditionally, it wasn't even a big fixture until the Qataris buy off Manchester City, and gradually it's become a big fixture, And more recently, in this Mikel Arteta versus Pep Guardiola, the master versus the apprentice sort of era, that's where it's become more of a rivalry. But traditionally or ordinarily, it's not that big a deal, And so look at it that way, So I do not wear the Chelsea kit forgetting who I pay allegiance to. But on the side of the aisle, that's the context, That's the context. And I hope you understand it and appreciate it for what it is, Jesus Christ. I wish Sino Bueno was here with us. Okay. You say hi. Keith Smith should sign for Newcastle. Raymond, until somebody actually signs for Newcastle, that's when we'll get into the Newcastle conversation. Because the desire is always there, but the struggle to get deals done and getting deals done on time or beating their rivals to those deals, By the way, I've seen reports that Newcastle are interested in signing Ethan Nwaneri from Arsenal. So, that would be quite a scoop for Newcastle. I don't know how much it would cost them, but I'm thinking anywhere between 25, what it cost them to sign Joe Willock, anywhere between 25 to 35 million pounds is a fee that could suffice if Newcastle are really, really interested in signing Ethan Nwaneri. And they could use him as a 10. They could use him playing off the right wing, although he doesn't love to play there. But as a 10, you've just lost Anthony Gordon. So you look at Jacob Murphy's come of age. You look at that role of the 10 and, it's vacant. So Think of it that way. So Raymond Kangumba, what do you make of Ethan Wanye or the idea or the possibility that Newcastle could be interested and could sign Ethan Wanye, you know? Um, give me more than that. As in, how do you see him as a player? What do you make of him? And in that Newcastle mold, for you as the Newcastle fan, how does he fit in? You know, uh, beyond the wish or beyond the acknowledgement that he would be a good signing for you. I don't know. I don't think Reluctant Gamer is still with us at the moment. But if he was, he would have given us a deeper thought on him as a player. I mean, left-footed, can dribble past a player or two, capable of creating chances, capable of scoring, popping up in the right areas and scoring goals. Yes, his loan spell did not work out really, really well, you know. With Olympic Marseille, did not work out really, really well. But ordinarily, it should be, he would be a good acquisition for them, in my humble opinion. Okay. Okay, not much in that. Oh, Jesus Christ. Mosquito is busy feasting on me. You say Nwaneri should fit in the wing for after losing Anthony Gordon. Nwaneri can play in the wing. He's good. Would be a good signing. Okay. William Trust Ekong. I mean, Thomas Mulumbu. The super sport guys. I don't remember who this other guy's name is. Former, I think, South African goalkeeper. Anyways. Okay. So what else? What did you guys make of that opening 45 minutes from the French against the Iraqis? I, for one, have not been really impressed. I've not been really, really impressed. I've thought the French could have done more. They could have been more electric, but they weren't. They weren't. They weren't. So they need to give us more, especially when you have fast players like Bakola, Mbappe, Dembele, Olise. Clearly should be giving us more. Then the Iraqis struggle to go beyond the midfield. I don't know why. They've been a bit overly passive, too confident of their own ideas. And at some point, I've thought that they need to try out something else. When you look at France's rest defense, sometimes there's felt like there's a huge chunk of space between them, between the defensive pair and the goalkeeper. So commit a player to stick in between there or to occupy the wider zone and try and go for that long pass. But they've not offered it to us. They've not offered it to us. Here it's the low quality videos. So yeah. Whoa. Anyways, there's all that and more. All that and more. So now, another issue I would want us to discuss. Jeremy Doku has come lots of criticism for missing their goalless draw against Iran. And it got me thinking, was it against Iran? Yes. Now, the reason as to why he did miss that game is because he had been away to welcome his first child with his better half. And a lot of people have criticized him for that. How do you miss such a big game? It's a World Cup. I mean, for starters, for Jeremy Doku, this is not going to be his last World Cup. So there will be plenty of times for him to play at the World Cup. 2, and you only get a firstborn once. Like, even if you have thousands of partners like Solomon, King Solomon, you only get one firstborn. That firstborn will be a firstborn for that other woman, that other man, but you as the individual, you only get one chance. So for him putting in the request and that request being granted, that should be enough. I understand, meanwhile, the game has been suspended due to bad weather. That's the game between France and Iraq. It's been suspended. I don't know for how long, until maybe the weather comes down a little bit. I can see there's some fans sporadically spread around the stadium. For me, this is what I'm constantly saying. This, especially for countries like this that have the resources, have covered stands. This stadium is so open that I think only the VIP areas are covered. Jesus Christ. Anyways, the game has been suspended due to bad weather. And it's not the first time. In as far as this World Cup is concerned, it's the first time. But for those of you that did watch the Club World Cup, you know that this was a common occurrence. You know that games were being, kickoff time was being extended largely due to bad weather. I remember one game that was involving Mamelodi Sundowns. So this sort of things happen. So for now, we do not know how long it may take for the weather to subside. I was wondering why, by the way, there was 2 hours between the first game and the second game. Remember, the first game kicked off at 8 p.m., ordinarily ending at around 10 p.m. So usually we're accustomed to being there a 1 hour gap between the first game and the next game. But this one took 2 extra hours, which speaks to, or which goes to suggest that possibly that it was because maybe they had anticipated the situation. And the good thing about weather information these days is that it is as accurate as the recount of the tales of Jesus Christ as per the Bible. That's if we believe what to believe to be true. So you can rely on that information to give you that. In the meantime, I do not know what our match providers will give us beyond the analysis of everything, but it is what it is. Let's hope that the weather will clear soon, and then we get on with it. So then the question, okay, let's go back. In terms of the substitutes, both teams, and particularly France, because they are the ones expected to win this game. They're the ones that you'd hope to see win this game, if you wish anything well for them. When you look at their bench, what are some of those players that you look at and think to yourself, yeah, these are some of the players that they can bring on to sort of change their fortunes? Manu Kone in that midfield, I thought he's done fairly well. Adrian Rabiot, he's had a bit of a dull game, but they have options. They have N'Golo Kante, they have Marcus Thuram, they have, sorry, not Marcus Thuram, Chouameni, they have Warren Zaïre Emery. Then when it comes to their the wings, I'd want them to give an opportunity to Magnus Aklecho of AC Monaco. I'd want to watch him out there. He's what, 24 years of age? So then, I mean, Ryan Chaki is there, Desiree Doué is there, but depending on how the game is, maybe by the 70th minute, yeah, I'll be thinking to myself, instead of maybe giving a Desiree Doué, give a Magnus Aklecho, a chance to come and see. We get to see what he's capable of, So, but they do have the players. Give Jean-Philippe Mateta, an opportunity, because if you don't get a chance or an opportunity in the group stages, when it comes to the knockout stages, it becomes too sensitive. It becomes too sensitive for managers to, just give players the opportunity. Because unless you're leading by 4-0, by 5-0, ordinarily, it's such serious business that, you may not be given a chance. And I'm talking about those sorts of players. Or maybe then the other option is for France to win this game, and then by the time they get to play the final game, then they do the final game, which is going to be against Norway. They can sort of put in their team B, but against Norway is that big a team, that strong a team, that you do not want to risk being humiliated out there by the Brad Erling Haalands of this world. Speaking of Senegal, Norway, that game kicks off at 3 a.m. At 3 a.m. So please take note. I want to commit myself into watching at least an hour of that game between Norway and Senegal. And then at 6 a.m., Jordan against Algeria. The last time I woke up very early to watch a game, I ended up regretting it. Simply because while I was enjoying the bits of it, power went off. So forgive me if I'm a bit too skeptical to sacrifice my sleep to wake up very early at 6 and watch the game between Jordan and Algeria, But Norway and Senegal, that's one of those games that I would, love to set my sights on. But for now, the game remains suspended due to adverse or bad weather. And usually when it comes to bad weather, it's not about just the rain, or because we've seen players play in the rain before, unless the rain becomes too intense that the referee agrees to put the game to a pause for some time. But ordinarily, they play through it. But when it comes to the USA weather, I think this is in areas where they are very prone to thunderstorms. So, and the last thing you'd want is to, to have a player be struck by lightning just because they are continuing to play a game during the rains. So we'll wait and see, we'll wait and see. But as things stand, France were leading by a goal to nil at halftime. Now, the bad thing about this is that, first of all, whereas players may get a bit of an extended rest, it kills the momentum of the game. Players may cool down too much because, yes, you want a break, but you do not want your muscles to be overly relaxed because going again can be a recipe for disaster or a risk for injuries. It may take players a bit of time for them to get warmed up again. So that's the risk of having these, unplanned breaks. Yeah. So, but let's hope for the best. That by the time we get to the kickoff between Senegal and Norway, I would have had the opportunity to have the second half be played to its logical conclusion. The last thing we'd want to hear is the game has been, pushed to tomorrow to a certain hour for them to come back and play the second half because of bad weather. I wouldn't that. I for one. So yeah, but as unfortunate as those things are, they do happen. Those are what we call circumstances beyond one's control. You cannot you cannot control weather. So, anyways, for Jeremy Doku, he's expected to rejoin the Belgium squad in Seattle on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, or ordinarily already today, because it's still 13 minutes past the hour of 1 a.m., which is Tuesday, the 23rd of June, 2026. After flying to London to attend to the birth of his son, Praise. So after all the ridiculous criticism the Man City winger received from some commentators, he won't miss a game after all. Note that he should have been rebuked for wanting to attend the birth of his first child, whether he had missed a game or not. Now, see where it becomes funny or sad or unfortunate is simply because, how do I put it? He may as well have been injured and missed the game. He may have been injured and missed the game. So I don't look at it as such a big deal. I don't look at it as such a big deal, especially bearing in mind that he was granted the permission to be away, Oh, come on. Anyways, uh-oh. Okay. Oh, rain is still out there. Some fans are beginning to retake their seats. I don't know. Do these stadiums have refugee like areas where fans can retreat to in their thousands, especially under these extreme conditions? Is that the case? Mhm. How 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 does it happen? Your guess is as good as mine, by the way. Your guess is as good as mine. So I'm there thinking to myself, what happens to them? Where do they retreat to? So, anyways, guys, it's been 2 hours of this broadcast. Now that the game is suspended, I don't know for how long. Allow me call it a wrap. If the second half resumes, we'll be back. So, but for now, allow me say my thank yous to Viola, to Summer Banks, to Raymond Kangumba, to Reluctant Gamer, to Pressing Kosi, to the lady from Czech Republic, to LFC, to KI, and every single one of you that has been part of tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much. Until when the game resumes, we will resume. If it does not resume, then we will catch up tomorrow morning. Stay blessed and bye-bye for now.